Well, while we're focused on the local elections, there are a series of San Antonio City Charter amendments further down the ballot that have lasting impacts on the Alamo City well after the next presidential term expires. And 3 of the 6 props deal with pay and terms for city council, the mayor, and city manager. All 6 of the propositions are passing. Now, do we have Rania Kaur with us right now? Okay, let's go live to Rania at City Hall. Rania?
Deborah, so one of the propositions that has gotten a lot of controversy is Proposition C. That's the one that talks about the city manager's pay and the term length. Now, in 2018, the San Antonio Firefighters Union pushed to put a cap on the city manager's pay at 10 times the salary of the lowest paid city employee. And of course, they also added a term length of 8 years. Voters voted it in 2018. And this year, after the firefighters got the contract negotiated, the firefighters union came out and said that they were against Proposition C passing. Now, right now, with Proposition C leading, I'm here with Joe Jones, who's the president of the union, to get his thoughts. And Joe, what is your reaction with these initial results and Prop C passing?
Well, our initial reaction is that our community has spoken. You know, our whole campaign was based on educating the public so that they were aware of what they were voting on and what they were voting for or against. And at the end of the day, the decision rested with them. And if this is their decision, then we accept that and we move on.
Now, I mean, right now, Proposition C is marginally passing with a less than 30,000 vote difference. What do you think is kind of pushing that, especially given the difference? What do you think is the difference between 2018 and now?
Well, I think some of the difference goes to ballot language. You know, we spoke to many in the community who were confused, even after talking to us, and they were like, okay, we're against. You know, and they came out and they were like, wow, I read the ballot language, and I forgot how I was supposed to vote because it seems, you know, so there was a little bit of that, and you know, that's not sour milk or anything, or it's what we were hearing out at the polls. There are many factors that could come into play. At the end of the day, if they didn't hear the message or they weren't the recipients of the education that we were providing, and you know, we were trying to provide both sides. You know, we were trying to be fair and balanced. But at the end of the day, if they didn't hear the message, then you know, maybe they weren't as informed as they could have been.
Now, Joe, very early on with the contract negotiations, I had a conversation with you about sort of ushering this new era of sort of a new, I guess, better era between the Firefighters Association and the city to come out with a statement against Prop C immediately after fire contract negotiations ended. Tell me about the timing of that.
Well, the timing is really terrible, if you ask me. You know, we were laser focused on the contract and trying to deliver a contract to get some kind of relief for our members who had been suffering for a decade. And then to come straight out of that and have to go into this. You know, it's terrible timing. We didn't like the optics on it. You know, just terrible culmination, terrible timing. So, you know, we looked at it and we're like, okay, we work really well with Eric and his team. You know, we've said that from the beginning. We're on record. You can rewind to different interviews. You know, we work really well with them. They're professional, we're professional. We keep it above board. We've both done our best to bury the past and the animosities that lived in the past and belong in the past. And, you know, moving forward, you know, we looked at it and we were like, okay, is this about a person? You know, is this about, you know, Eric Walsh, or is it about the city manager position, the principle behind it, right? The balance of power downtown. And that's what, you know, talking to members of our community and everything, it really seemed like they were in favor of that balance of power, which is why they voted just 6 years ago for the term limits and the salary boundaries. So really, we felt compelled to remind voters, hey, this is actually what you voted for, and this is why you voted for it according to you. And at the end of the day, after informing them and educating them, if they decided to vote for it, then the community has spoken and democracy has been upheld, and we're completely at peace with that.
Now, City Manager Eric Walsh currently makes a little over $300,000. His pay is capped at $375,000, I believe. That's lower than even Corpus Christi, which is paying their city manager $400,000, let alone Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth. San Antonio is at the lowest pay for the city manager.
So that's a little deceptive, right? So, Eric is making somewhere around, 374. And as we understand it, as it was reported recently in local media, his total compensation package is actually over $500,000. It had it parked at $506,000. So when you take into consideration all the different ways that they can incentivize the position, it makes that base salary a little deceptive.
So I know the mayor believes that these results are going to be the final results. What is your take on the current results we're seeing right now?
Well, if that's the final results and, the mayor may well be right, then we think that it's fantastic that the city of San Antonio came out. I think we set records this year. We saw a ton of people out at the polls, and that's what it's all about. It's about community engagement. It's about involvement. It's about getting out and making sure that your voice is heard. So if this is the voice and the will of the people of San Antonio, we think it's fantastic.
Even if it goes against the firefighters union?
You're not really going against the firefighters union. You're going against what the community voted for in 2018.
Thank you so much. And of course, we'll continue to keep you updated as we receive results live from the firefighters union headquarters. I'm Rania Kaur, KENS 5.
All right, Rania, thank you. Certainly a very gracious response there.